The streets of Ouagadougou crackle with tension. Soldiers patrol, their faces grim. The air itself feels heavy, thick with uncertainty. This is Burkina Faso in 2025, a nation grappling with its future. At the center of it all stands a young man, barely in his 30s. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the once unassuming soldier, is now the most powerful man in the country. His story is one of ambition, of revolution, and of the heavy burden of a nation's hopes and fears. Traoré's ascent has been swift and unexpected. He rose from relative obscurity, a soldier in a country plagued by insurgency and instability. His rise mirrors the desperation of a nation yearning for change, for security, for a future free from the shadows of terrorism and poverty. But his rule has been anything but peaceful. Controversy follows him like a shadow. His decisions have shaken the very foundations of Burkina Faso's relationship with the world. Traoré's supporters see him as a savior, a man willing to stand up for his people against the old guard, against foreign influence. They cheer his name in the streets, their voices echoing the hope that he represents. But his critics see a different side of the young leader. They see a man who is too quick to silence dissent, who is more interested in consolidating power than in building a better future for his people. They point to the shrinking space for free speech, to the arrests of journalists and activists, as proof that Traoré's revolution is turning into something more sinister. The world watches Burkina Faso with bated breath. The stakes are high. The outcome of Traoré's gamble will have ripple effects across the region and beyond. Will he be the leader who finally brings peace and prosperity to his troubled nation? Or will he become another cautionary tale of power and revolution gone astray? Only time will tell. The dusty town of Bondokuy, nestled in the arid plains of western Burkina Faso, feels a world away from the halls of power in Ouagadougou. It was here in this humble town that Ibrahim Traoré spent his formative years. Life was simple, shaped by the rhythms of rural life, far removed from the political turmoil that would come to consume his life. Traoré was known as a bright and curious child, excelling in his studies. His teachers saw potential in him, a spark that hinted at a future beyond the dusty streets of his hometown. But destiny, it seemed, had other plans. The call to serve, to protect his nation from the growing threat of terrorism, proved too strong to resist. And so, the young Traoré, driven by a sense of duty and perhaps a thirst for adventure, traded his textbooks for combat boots. The military became Traoré's proving ground, shaping him into the man he is today. He rose through the ranks, his dedication and strategic mind setting him apart from his peers. He served on the front lines, witnessing firsthand the brutality of the insurgency ravaging his homeland. He saw his comrades fall, victims of a conflict that seemed to have no end in sight. And with each fallen comrade, his resolve hardened. Traoré's experiences on the battlefield forged in him a deep-seated belief that the status quo was failing Burkina Faso. He saw a government more concerned with maintaining its grip on power than with protecting its citizens. He saw a military leadership that was out of touch with the realities of the conflict. And within him, a seed of discontent began to grow, a seed that would eventually blossom into open rebellion. The early hours of September 30th, 2022, brought with them the sounds of gunfire and the rumble of tanks in the streets of Ouagadougou. The people of Burkina Faso, accustomed to unrest, awoke to the news that their government had been overthrown once again. This time it was a young army captain, Ibrahim Traoré, who had seized the reins of power. Traoré's coup was swift and bloodless, a testament to his growing influence within the military. He appeared on state television, his youthful face a stark contrast to the aging leaders who had preceded him. He spoke of his disillusionment with the government's failure to combat the insurgency, of his commitment to restoring security and unity to Burkina Faso. The international community reacted with a mixture of condemnation and cautious optimism. Coups, after all, were not new in Burkina Faso. The country had witnessed its fair share of power grabs and military takeovers. But there was something different about Traoré, something in his demeanor, in the conviction of his words, that gave some observers pause. Traoré moved quickly to consolidate his power. He dissolved the government, suspended the constitution, and imposed a curfew. He promised a return to civilian rule, but only after he had achieved his goals of restoring security and reforming the political system. His actions were bold, even reckless, but they resonated with a population weary of violence and instability. More than 2 years have passed since Traoré's dramatic rise to power. The streets of Ouagadougou are no longer patrolled by tanks, but the tension remains, simmering just below the surface. Traoré's rule has been a mixed bag, a tapestry woven from threads of hope, fear, and uncertainty. On the one hand, Traoré has made progress in addressing the security situation. He has galvanized the military, instilling in them a renewed sense of purpose. He has sought out new alliances, most controversially with Russia, much to the chagrin of former colonial power France. These actions have yielded some results. The insurgency has been pushed back, though far from defeated. There are glimmers of hope, faint but undeniable, that peace may one day return to Burkina Faso. But Traoré's rule has come at a cost. His critics, once silenced by the initial wave of support for the coup, are beginning to find their voice again. They point to the shrinking space for dissent, to the arrests of journalists and activists, as evidence that Traoré is becoming the very thing he claimed to oppose, an authoritarian ruler more interested in maintaining power than in serving his people. The promised elections have been postponed indefinitely, fueling suspicions that Traoré has no intention of relinquishing control. The world watches Burkina Faso, its gaze a mixture of hope and apprehension. The future of this young nation, once brimming with so much promise, hangs in the balance. Will Traoré be the leader who guides his people out of the darkness? Or will his rule be remembered as yet another missed opportunity, another tragic chapter in Burkina Faso's turbulent history? The answer, like the future itself, remains shrouded in uncertainty.